Over the years, I have applied for a great number of jobs. I'm sure that in your days you have as well. But I remember that first job I was hired for as a lifeguard and swim instructor. It was a very good thing the owner knew me as I grew up swimming there, because I'm not sure they would have hired me with my lack of confidence as a 15-year-old at that point in time. I also once interviewed for a job at this sort of earthy, crunchy store in the mall near where I had grown up. And I confidently told the store manager that I was perfect for the job because I was working on an environmental science degree. They asked what retail experience I had, and I said none, and I did not get the job. But such is the nature of job searches, right? Well, last week, if you were in church, you remember that Jesus called some of the disciples to follow him. And this week, we essentially get a job description for the person that God is looking for. Now, the ideal candidate must be all about justice work. They must be about love. They must be about kindness and humility. They must be already or willing to become poor in spirit, understand mourning, be meek, have a hunger for righteousness, be full of mercy, be pure in heart. Now, this ideal candidate will desire blessing others over their own advancement. Do you know anybody? Anybody perfect for this job? Want to apply? I'm not seeing a slew of hands here. Now, I don't really blame you, because this is a job description that is hard. Now, both of these scriptures that Doug just read for us are familiar ones to most of us. We've heard them before we actually love them. And one of the things I think we love about them is that they're really clear about what's expected of us. But when you frame it as a job description, I'm not sure that any of us would jump at the opportunity to apply. Now, I'm guessing that we don't even think we're remotely qualified for this job, especially because the pay is nothing. But, you knew there was a but. But this job isn't about having the qualifications. Being a child of God does not mean that we are already good at these things. It's not even about being confident in our ability to gain these skills, right? Because that's another good way to get a job, is to tell how well you can learn what's needed. Instead, it's about striving. It's about holding these verses close and being willing to work on them. Work on them because they are hard. We're not even sure we want them. We can work our entire life long and probably not receive outstanding check marks in the position review all across the board. Now, last night, it was story time at my house, and I was reading to Selena about Claudette Colvin, who was 15 years old, and she lived in Montgomery, Alabama, before the height of the civil rights movement in the 1960s. And in her entry in this book, She Persisted by Chelsea Clinton, we learned that she gave up her seat on the school bus home 9 months before Rosa Parks. And she is quoted as saying, "I knew then and I know now that when it comes to justice, there is no easy way to get it. You can't sugarcoat it. You have to take a stand and say, this is not right. Claudette had the idea of what it means to live into the job description of Micah and Matthew. There's no easy way to get it. You have to take a stand. You just have to do it. You have to keep working at it. So when it comes time for our review of how we're doing in our job, even when it says needs improvement, there is the promise of the realm of God. There is the promise of comfort. There is the promise of inheriting the earth. There is the promise of mercy. There is the promise of seeing God. There is the promise of forever being called a child of God. Now, friends, we don't land this job by checking off a certain number of boxes or by being the cream of the crop of applicants. We have this job before we know we even want it. We are supported in this job despite the countless numbers of times we forget that we're supposed to show up for work. We are nurtured in this job even when we are quite possibly the world's worst employee. We are never fired. We are always supported. Now, this job might not come with paid time off. It might not come with health insurance. But it comes with the blessing of God. It comes with mercy. It comes with great reward. Now, we might be willing to apply. Now, if so, all you need is to be willing. To be willing to show love, to be willing to do justice, to be willing to love kindness, to be willing to walk with God, to walk with God to this table of welcome, to this table of belonging, to this table of support for the journey. None of us gets it all right all the time. But this job is ours. Come, let us gather at this table. Amen.